Thank you. ABC Forum 2015 Chairman Tura, the Honorable Datuk Sri Idris Jalla, members of the Advisory Council of the Asean Business Club, participants, research partners, members of the media, friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. We had big numbers thrown at us, big prospects depicted. Now, how do we achieve them? And how do we ensure optimal means of achieving them, not half-baked and halfway measures? Now, this is the third ABC Forum. Now, since the first in 2013, a total of 13 Lift the Barrier reports have been produced, covering 11 sectors. This year, another 6 will be the outcome, as Tura mentioned, with one additional sector being covered, tourism. Now, as Tura also said, we have revisited some sectors to underline outstanding issues and their strategic importance. Now, what's happened to these reports? Now, all these reports have been brought to the attention of ASEAN policy makers, from the Secretariat to senior economic officials, to economic ministers, to leaders. They are well aware of the rendition in those reports of the non-tariff barriers and measures in the various sectors of the reports and the various suggestions for their alleviation. Question, but have they acted on them? Now, here, to say the least, the record is mixed. They have given ABC recognition. They are well aware, and they have noted, that lovely word, the reports. They have actually received quick read summaries and presentations so that they'll have to plow through our reports. They have instructed officials to take them into account. However, what happens after this? We get caught up in the swirl of innumerable meetings which characterize ASEAN, with the agenda set and fixed by the officials, with their national interests foremost in their minds. And our point of view, while heard, is struggling to take center stage. It would seem to me that we should pause and reassess our strategy and tactics. Last year, we made a proposal for a financial services and capital markets expert group to be embedded in the Secretariat at private sector cost to facilitate the materialization of decisions already made by the finance ministers, central bank governors, and securities regulators, as well as to propose new ideas. The ASEAN chair has received this proposal together with suggested terms of reference, and indeed, I have incorporated in my capacity as chairman of the ASEAN Business Advisory Council these proposals in our report, this particular proposal in our report to leaders. It was highlighted verbally in my presentation to the leaders on 27th April last month. So there's been a lot of process, a lot of reports, a lot of meetings, a lot of representations. Now, I believe the way forward now, as we pause and think about it, is to have a structured private sector participation in the discussion and implementation process, if we would be allowed. The FSCM expert group model is a good one for other prioritized sectors as well. And if this could be agreed to, it would be a great boost to our efforts to ensure our inputs are heard in the implementation process. Secondly, we have also to think of other methods of breaking down the barriers than these reports. These other methods have to be deployed as well. At our forum this year, the minister in the Prime Minister's Department in Malaysia, Datuk Sri Idris Jallah, who is here, kindly here with us, will take us through a methodology to attack barriers to trade and investment, which his unit, Pemandu, calls the Pathfinder. And this is something well worth looking at and adopting and implementing. In fact, this process is already underway. Datuk Sri Idris Jallah has made a presentation to the economic ministers in Kota Baru on the 1st of March this year. He's also made a presentation to the Asean Business Advisory Council, plus all 12 Joint Business Council members. We have 12 Joint Business Council members from 12 parts of the world, including to ABC, which is an associate member of that council. I'm integrating all the efforts, and he's made this presentation, and that was fully supported, and we reported to the leaders that this is a methodology that is fully supported by the ASEAN Business Advisory Council and the private sector. Now we are trying to familiarize the ABC with this methodology, which Datuk Sri Idris will present after my opening remarks. We are looking at 100 companies with an ASEAN barrier problem to be assembled. What are the kinds of problems? Companies, 10 companies in country X will come, and Idris will actually explain all this, but we are assembling this by the end of this month. By the end of this month. Thirdly, there is a need to throw big ideas at the problem, solutions, business proposals to break down the barriers, rather than just how to break down the barriers, and make sure these proposals, even if they're not accepted by all ASEAN countries, take off bilaterally, trilaterally, so that the functional benefits will subsequently be seen, and the other countries might want to join in. And this thing then will become ASEAN-wide and multilateralized. We must not wait for the full consensus among all the 10. And the ASEAN Business Advisory Council, on this third point, is proposing that an ASEAN MSME growth bank be established, professionally and commercially driven, needing only regulatory space, no official money, no official funds, just regulatory space in the jurisdiction in which it is established. And then when this growth bank interacts with small and medium enterprises in other countries, they have to make sure that issues such as recognition of cross-border collateral are in place before they can get those facilities. And certainly, in the country in which the bank is established, the SMEs will benefit fast and first. And therefore, this demonstration effect is one way to do it. Now, the moment you mention a bank, people think in very traditional terms. They think in terms of loans, they think in terms of trade finance, but the bank that we have in mind is a universal bank providing a wide array of facilities and not just trade finance and loans. This will be a bank that will provide structured products as well. Investment banking products, many of you are aware of. It could set up private equity funds and raise funds from the public to be invested in SMEs. It could set up private debt funds, what's called shadow banking, to make sort of investments or loans to SMEs. It could actually be involved in the clutching together of SMEs and listing them on ASEAN exchanges. It could issue convertible notes. It could issue sukuks. It could have an Islamic window. It could do many, many things. It could have crowdfunding facilities managed by this bank. It could also do microfinance for the very small companies, such as those that exist in Indonesia. Now, here you are, you would have such a bank run professionally. Now, one ASEAN leader has told me he would support the establishment of such a bank if no public funds were involved. Fine, we're not thinking about public funds. And then in terms of potential promoters, they can be from inside or outside the region. And a couple of countries have told me if there was support by one ASEAN country, they would be looking at this very seriously. Of course, there'll be other promoters as well. We do not want to be a country-driven thing. But at the end of the day, what we're talking about is this. We say ASEAN is a third force. What substantial ASEAN institution is there in ASEAN economic life that we can identify? We say the SMEs are the backbone of the ASEAN economy. What have we really done about it beyond studies, including the ones that we also are going to do with US aid? Yes, they're useful, but doing is more important than just keeping on with studies and studies and studies, which is officialdom's way of kicking problems to long grass. So we must actually do something, and this is the third point that I wish to emphasize, and we must make things happen that make a difference, and make people who don't want to participate know that they are being left out. There can be other ideas, of course, apart from these three. Infrastructure financing, for example. Infrastructure project listing is one of the ways that we could raise funds for infrastructure projects. And these infrastructure companies or infrastructure projects could be listed without track record in a substantial and deep ASEAN exchange. It could be an agreement between Malaysia and Myanmar alone. Subsequently, Singapore would say, hey, we've got a deep and liquid market too. We have infrastructure project listings on our exchange. We want to take part. Hopefully, later on, Indonesia might want to take part. So we have to move and do things. As you know, the prospects and numbers, speak for themselves, and they have been well pronounced, well announced, and well depicted at so many conferences. So as ASEAN now already addresses, actually, as I call it, shades of Hamlet. We haven't even come to the end of 2015. We are talking about post-2015. Because obviously there is some kind of surrender that we will not achieve a lot of the pre-2015 sort of prospects. So they're talking about a post-2015 AEC. And I raised it with the leaders. I said, none of the private sector has seen the post-2015 document. We were given sight of an abridged version, and I don't think it is too exciting. So I'm calling for a meeting on the 11th of June in Penang, all private sector people who are interested. Certainly the ASEAN Business Advisory Council will be there, the joint councils will be there, and other people from ABC should be there to come up with what are the things they want for the post-2015 AEC. Before we find ourselves in the same positions as we found ourselves in the pre-2015 planning. The private sector was only brought in latterly, towards the end of the process, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, out of a process which started from 2008. Now with 2015, post-2015, we must make sure we're in at the start, and that the structured relationship that we want is put in as far as possible so that we can make the difference in partnership with the officials and the government and not be adversarial. Because if we see something after it's come out, inevitably it'll be adversarial, and therefore it might not make the officials feel good. Now all we are asking is to participate fully in the process so that there can be a genuine partnership. So ladies and gentlemen, those are some of the thoughts I have in relation to how we go forward to make a difference. I would like to thank you for your attention, and can I end by thanking everyone for his presence and interest in the ABC Forum, the participants again for sharing their time and ideas, and our absolutely first-class research partners, and to the CHARI team for putting together this year's earlier than usual event to catch that 2015 ASEAN date and to be in at the birth for the post-2015 ASEAN. And certainly, not least, let me thank again all our sponsors and thank you all. Very good morning. Have a good forum. Thank you very much.